Everyone has a bright light inside of them that deserves to be seen by the world. That's why it's time to shine the light on the extraordinary who are accomplishing phenomenal things. This is the Shine Out Loud Show with Lillian and Tet Kofi.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first show of Shine Out Loud Show. Oh my God. Hey, Tate.
It happened.
It happened.
But what a ninja you are with all the technology. You have no idea what this woman has been through in the last, 15 minutes or so? Lillian, I'm so impressed.
Yeah.
You know, there are men geeks, but when you meet a woman who can science the living daylights out of the equipment, I have got to be impressed.
Well, what can I say? I mean, it's either we get it right or we go home defeated. And really, I'm not much of a go home defeated kind of girl.
Okay, well, figures.
I figured that, with three bright people in the room, because we have our wonderful behind-the-camera person, Nicoletta, and with three bright people in the room, we will come up with a solution. So that wasn't a problem. But now let's go back to that introduction, because this is the first show. Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Shine Out Loud Show with my incredible, fantastic... I'm going to have to start a new word of the day to actually describe this man.
Oh, my goodness.
Tet Kofi.
Oh, you can come again. I'm going to take this all down in writing.
Hey, Tate.
Hi, yeah. Hi, Lil. Good to see you.
It's good to be seen by you.
Okay. So she's Lillian and I'm Tet. Actually, my friends call me Tet, so you can call me Tet as well. My Twitter is at Tet Kofi. And so on. So Tet is basically just a short form of the name Tete, just so we know.
Yeah, I know the short form exists, but I like your full name.
Really?
There's something about the power of using a person's name as it was intended.
Right.
Because they say, I think it was Shakespeare that says, what is in a name, if a rose was called something else, would it still smell as sweet?
Absolutely. Well, it's really for convenience. It's something that I need to give people permission with, though, so which is why I gave our wonderful audience permission to tweet me in. Plus, my Twitter handle is at Tet Kofi, so there
just
we
in
are.
case you missed it, at Tet Kofi. Let's get the Twitter, and mine is Lillian and You can also find us on the Shine Out Loud Show, Shine Out Show. So that's the first thing. Let's get that out of the way. Now, everybody who followed us, who Instagrammed us, knew that we were supposed to have the incredible woman behind the lens. We're supposed to have Sheila Notley with us.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, something came up, and she's not here.
Yeah.
She's missed, and I can't wait to interview this woman.
Oh, no, she's going to be amazing. Absolutely incredible. She's so creative. She has a completely different voice. And, well, I won't steal her thunder. We'll wait for her to come on the show. But she is an incredible filmmaker and has an opus out there right now, which you won't want to miss when it comes out.
No, I think, and that's the thing, we have so many incredible guests coming out. And this whole changing of narratives where we have people of color who are coming up and coming strong with things, with their, with what it is that makes them great. Now, I think, we're kind of getting into it, and let's start with this. The show is Shine Out Loud Show. And we have to ask, and I'm sure I've had people go, why the name? Why the show? So let's start with that. Tate, what was your why behind the show?
For me, the world's going through the most incredible changes. Personally, certain things happened in the course of last year. But politically speaking, those of us who live in the United Kingdom went through this amazing referendum which led to something called Brexit, where Britain left the the European community. And later on in the year, we all kind of looked across the Atlantic, watched what was going on with that incredible presidential campaign. And against all the odds, the man Donald Trump became president of the United States of America.
I'm trying not to laugh about that. Okay. I am trying. And I'm feeling...
But sometimes, truth is stranger than fiction. But it has happened. It's a reality we're living in. And he seems to have driven the world in a certain direction. Now, for me, the most significant event so far was that amazing Women's March, which took place in 600 cities. In London, our own city here of London alone, there were 100,000 people took part on this march. And it happened in several cities up and down the country. Funniest thing I saw was this Facebook post where there's this tiny village in Nova Scotia in Canada. It's 2 hours drive away from Halifax. I mean, we're talking, kind of outback here. This place is really remote. The population of this town is 65 people. Would you believe?
Wait, 65?
65, that's a total population.
Oh, wow, that's
Do you know what I mean?
A really remote place.
Urban, bustling metropolis, it's not. But still, 15 people did a 1.5-hour march in support of the women's movement. The thing went viral on Facebook. So the reason I recount that is that we do live in a time of change. And it's a time when lots of different communities are having to find their voice, because if they don't find their voices, they are going to be, kind of basically bulldozed over by the events of the world.
So, you know what? I like where we segue into Find Our Voice, because I think that's one of the main ethos of the show for me is about putting that spotlight on the people that are not normally seen, who are out there every day creating magic. Literally, they are creating the most amazing things. But mainstream media pretend like they don't exist. Or if they do feature people of color, the mainstream media has a way of skewing the information that they want to share. So this is about shining that light out on, the people who are creating things. Like the upcoming guests, like Say That's to Say. This woman went from trying to find underwear to launching a movement, creating an empire for herself. We have people who are doing extraordinary things, I think, on a daily basis, just being on Instagram sometimes. The amount of talent, raw, unfiltered talent that is out there is just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, for me, because I'm a parent as well, it leads to kind of issues around legacy, because if the young generations who are coming up don't have shining lights to look up to, they don't have role models, they don't have people who can show them what can be done, they feel as if they're going to have to reinvent the wheel. So the Shine Out Loud show is in part about creating kind of a narrative, a history of people's achievements and so on, so that other people will be inspired and nudged along to try and create something wonderful as well.
And I agree. It's a curation of. It's a celebration of these incredible people. And sometimes, I'm so excited about doing this. This is been part of my vision to actually say, let's celebrate those people. Let's celebrate us. Let's celebrate all our achievements. And, somebody asked me, well, if you're doing a show that's really about people of color, doesn't mean that non-people of color can't listen.
Let's talk about people of color and this whole nomenclature thing. It's a big one.
I think, let's get into that, because there's this whole idea that when we mention people of color...
Who are they?
We immediately think black. Because that's the first thing. Because when you say people of color, so it's POC in the United States. It's BME in the UK, so black, Asian, and ethnic minorities. But once you say that, there's almost a preconceived notion that we are talking black. We're talking, people of my shade, your shade. But that's not the truth, because we are not the only ones who are facing this erasure. We are not the only ones who are not being seen, heard, acknowledged, celebrated.
You call that erasure?
I call it erasure. I call it basically silencing and trying to, replace people's achievement or not even acknowledge that achievement. So for me personally, when I'm talking about people of color, I mean everyone who is of an ethnic background, be it Chinese, be it Japanese, be it Hawaiian, be it Asian, South Asians, be it anybody who is ethnic. And then you have the whole melting pot of those who are mixed ethnic background.
See, this is a tricky one, because for me, when people use the word people, who do they really mean?
We the people.
Actually, when you say people, you're supposed to mean the entire group of genus Homo sapiens. But often, people are people with power.
Yes.
And people seem to have different levels of worth, so that, life in the West seems to have more value, merit, and worth than life outside of the West in the so-called third world countries. And that also becomes connected with the whole notion of shade of skin, color of skin, sometimes gender as well, different levels of ability, sexual orientation, and so on and so forth. So when it comes to this whole business of people of color, in my head, I think people who are not basically Caucasian, which is not to say that Caucasian people are not people. We are all people.
Of course.
But unfortunately, when the media says people, mostly it's talking not about people who are non-Caucasian.
And that's the thing, because then that drives the idea, the standard of beauty. I remember when Disney recently brought out the whole Moana movie, which is supposed to be based on Polynesian gods. And people were like, oh, but why is the character huge and big? Why is it this? They actually missed the trick. When people started, kind of protesting and picking and everything, they missed the fact that they actually used voiceovers of the people from the area that they were working with, which was really important. But then, we stopped trying to work our standards of looks, our standard of imagery to fit what the media conceives to be. This is
stereotypes.
This is the stereotype. This is the standard for beauty. This is the standard for this. So what we're doing with the show is saying there is no standard. We create our standards. We create the fact that we want to be seen, be heard, and celebrated. Plain and simple.
What's interesting is that, I'm a broadcast journalist by living, for a living, and there are certain issues which are just not really discussed in what you'd call the mainstream media.
Yeah, I agree.
And they're not discussed for good reason, because people feel very, the best word for it is icky. People are very uncomfortable around, certain discussions. Why that is? Well, I have my theories. By the way, this would be a good thing to do. Why don't you tweet us why you think that the mainstream media is so uncomfortable around discussing issues around color, race, and so on and so forth?
Color, race, creed, and gender.
Creed, gender, absolutely.
It's always been. I remember growing up, they're like, never talk religion, politics, or money.
Okay.
And I think we are at the point in time where we need to talk about everything. But that's just so my personal opinion.
Well, no, you're not. But I completely second that.
We need to talk about everything. And while we're doing that, let's have our first official So Loud moment, because we are talking about everything this evening. Let's celebrate the incredibly is my go-to word, so incredibly talented Viola Davis. The woman has 3 Oscar nominations.
That's good. That's
3,
good.
not 1, not 2, 3.
That's impressive.
3 Oscar nominations. So I am rooting for her to win all 3. I'll take 1, but if she gets all 3, I'm happy. And, let's look at Denzel Washington has gone from filmmaker to director. There seems to be a shift in that trend.
But the interesting thing is that nothing happened until people started talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that whole furore last year about the white Oscars?
Oscar Not So White.
Absolutely.
I remember.
And they got Chris Rock to compare and MC it.
I thought that was no.
That guy's hilarious. He's absolutely.
Sorry.
He's unbelievable.
I thought the organizers were basically shooting themselves in the foot with that one.
Why?
You have a foray over Oscar Not So White, and then you get Chris Rock as your compare.
My goodness.
That's basically lighting a fuse on a very short fuse.
Who remembers their chemistry classes? It's like sodium on water. Pyrotechnics. But he did a very good job. And actually, in my opinion anyway, I think to be a good comedian, you need an impeccable sense of taste.
Oh, yeah.
You need to know how and what you can get a laugh out of. And if you're a thoughtful comedian, you can actually get people to think while they're laughing at the same time.
And I think that's an ability. And like you said, I will have to say Chris Rock did a good job. But that was just touch and go, because half the time people were like just waiting for him to really say something.
To really go off.
Really say something.
But then, let's face it. I don't think you can gift wrap a situation like this, because the situation is incendiary.
Yes.
And it brings me to my next point, which is you talk about erasure.
Yes.
In my line of business, I call it censorship of voice, because there are certain voices you just never hear. I'll tell you, can I just share what happened to me recently? I watched this documentary called The 13th.
Oh, I still haven't been able to watch that.
Which is the 13th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. I had to watch it in 2 goes, because at my first attempt, the first 10 minutes were so upsetting, I felt physically ill.
Oh, no.
And I thought to myself, don't let me put you off, mind you. I felt to myself, I don't think I can be handling this. And I think I watched Homeland or something instead. I mean, something to let me kind of zoom out of reality casually. Then a week later, I came back and watched this documentary. And, I'm not a pink-kneed and trembling sort of guy, but this totally rocked my world. It basically... I'm not going to. This isn't going to be a spoiler, but basically, it talks about what's happened to African Americans by virtue of a constitutional trick or loophole. Call it what you will. This is something you have to watch. But the reason I mention the 13th is that there are a whole swathe of voices who are never heard. And they're not heard because when they open their mouths, they're met with disapproval. So the messages they need to put out to society aren't taken on board. And then when the calamity happens, everybody goes, oh, why didn't you tell us before? Kind of thing. Oh, I didn't know what was going on. So for me, I think a big part of the ethos of this program as well is the ability to give a voice its voice. And in that way, actually, we can all really educate each other.
And yes, I agree. I agree with that. And I will watch 13. I know I've been stalling on this, but after you told me about it, I'm kind of bracing myself to actually see that.
No, you do. I mean, I'm not spoiling anything, and I'm not over-egging the pudding either, but you need to brace yourself for this. It's one of, I would say, in terms of docudramas, probably one of the top 3 documentaries I have ever seen in all of my lifetime.
Okay, so it is on my list of things to watch.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why I even term it erasure, because you say it's censorship, it's silencing. We have to think about it. For me, being a woman of color, when you think about, you pick up any general magazine, we're almost invisible. We're kind of literally have been erased from existence in these magazines. Now, there's some magazines that are actively working against that in the mainstream. So we have to really say, yep, you know what? We see you, we respect you for doing what you're doing. However, there is this concept of erasure. It doesn't just happen to us, because there's again, going back to that whole question about, being black, we are impacted. It doesn't just happen to us. I mean, recently, Chinese actors are currently picketing a play in Notting Hill called
Yes, I read about that in the news.
The Depths of Love, Depths of Love. And, based under the tag of yellow face, because we have the black face where people black up to play roles, that people of color should be playing. However, now there's a whole instance of this whole play, and this is just the insane part, which I found absolutely hilarious. The show, the play is based in ancient China. Every character in the show has a Chinese name, yet not one actor picked to play it was of Chinese background.
Okay.
And when this whole thing hit and the production company and the theater responded, they go, "Oh no, it wasn't a Chinese play. The only face you can pull is literally the Michelle Obama face." Like, really? Really? Now, a play set in ancient China, Chinese named characters, not a Chinese play, Almost as bad as the situation where they got Adrian Brody. Is it Adrian Brody?
Adrian Brody.
Yeah, to play Michael Jackson. Now, listen, people, let's stop. We all know Michael had an issue with color, but the man still identified as a black person.
Well, look at the rest of his family.
He's still identified as a man of color. So to actually get a white person to play him, I thought, now that's just rude.
See, there are two impacts of this thing. I think one is for the benefit of society, and one is for the impact on the individuals. If a person doesn't have their voice validated, if a person doesn't have what they say heard, it's not great for their self-esteem. And I think that one of the most important things about a healthy society is that the members of that society have a healthy sense of their own worth. Because a person with a sense of their worth is a person who has a percentage in society. They identify with the society and they will do anything to protect and nurture that society. They will fight anything that will kind of disrupt it, turn it upside down, and so on and so forth.
You said something that's very important. That's saying about, feeling part of society. And then there are further conversations that we can have about that because, there's that whole concept of, this is what we do as black folk. Then we have like a general brush and tar the entire black community to act in one singular way. And so I think this show is about saying we have the right to participate in society. We have a right to be seen for our work that we do, for who we are, what we stand for, and we can do that without excluding anybody.
I've worked in management consultancy for a number of years now, and take, for example, this play about ancient China in which they might have said, well, we couldn't recruit any Chinese actors. This plays into the whole thing about networks.
Yeah.
There are in-groups and there are out-groups. And depending on the number of networks an individual is plugged into, they will attract a whole diversity of folk. But if many groups are actually excluded from the networks, none of them are on the inside track. When the crisis occurs and you need access to those communities, you don't know where to go because all the members of the community that might have been co-opted are on the outside.
Yeah.
And actually, the more members of that community you have on the inside, the stronger the whole community becomes because they have a percentage in maintaining the viability, the success, the visibility of the entire edifice. So again, the difficulty with erasure and censorship of voice is that you exclude assets which can do nothing but enrich, support, and protect that society. It is the kids. Am I going on?
No, you're not. But you know what? I just think that we cannot actually iron out the full extent of this because
we can only tease it out.
This is something that it's going to be an ongoing conversation.
Sure.
It's going to be something that it's not even for us to have here. It's something that we need to take to a wider forum. And for me personally, I think there's so much to discuss.
I'd just like to kick it off here,
and there's so much to actually take part in. Now, let's kind of circle back. Now, we're talking about Brexit. We're talking about Donald Trump being the president of the United States. I'm sorry, I can't say that with a straight face.
You're not saying that with a generous...
Stop it. I can't. No, I will not say that with a straight face. I blame The Simpsons for this. I'm sorry. I'm just going to have to say it.
Do you know they predicted it? How long ago was it?
Yeah, I think like 10 years ago. It was The Simpsons. I blame you, all of you. I blame the creators of Simpsons for this debacle we're in. However, you know what? It's not all bad. Because it's at this point that we need to actually think, well, what else can we do? It's already, what else can we do?
I did this Instagram tweet this morning, Lillian, and it talked about, it was basically if you encounter lemons, there's only one thing you can do. Just make loads of lemonade, make loads of delicious lemonade, create value with it.
I'm thinking pie. I'm more of a pie girl.
Oh, you're a pie?
Yeah.
You could go lemon meringue.
Yeah, nice lemon meringue pie.
Okay, too sugary for me, but hey ho, I get you. You see, so I think that there is an inverse value in this situation, because all the issues that have been swept under the carpet, that have been denied, that people say, no, you're imagining this.
And now at the forefront.
It's your paranoia. No, you've got an inferiority complex. No, you've got a paranoid complex or whatever. Well, they're being absolutely screamed at us by the most powerful man in the world and his close supporters. So what it does do is that it kind of slays the lie, and we now have to have the conversation.
Yeah, we have to address it. We have to address the elephant in the room. In fact, I don't think it's an elephant anymore. I think it's the size of a T-Rex. It has to be addressed. And I think that... Actually, I believe that we are at a point where now people actually take self-responsibility for who and what they get in life. Because people are thinking, well, the governments clearly are not on my side right now, so I have to choose another way. And that's not just for people of color. That's people generally are saying, we have to organize together. We have to kind of set up together. Because if we don't, then we're not going to get anywhere. So anyway, we have so much content. We can talk about this till the cows come home. But I also want to kind of look at, from the point of view of the guests coming up. I mean, next week we have Eamon Barati. And this young man, a millennial who is doing some really incredible things. He's kind of rephrasing the whole Hollywood conversation. He's teaching people how to network the Hollywood, beast in the way that it works for them. And he's been doing that in the last few years. And what he's creating, the kind of forums that he has directors coming to people. So it's no longer, people having to knock on the door trying to enter
break
that.
in. He's inviting them in.
He's inviting them in. So there are people who were doing that. We have one of the duos from the creator of the political thriller, Mona, coming. Like I mentioned, we have Seda Sase. We have some incredible people lined up, and I'm looking forward to it.
Terrific. And, as a start, it would be great for people to tweet to us, to Lillian, to myself, to the Shine Out Loud show, the ways in which you're making your voice heard now. You might think it's par for the course. You might think that you're not doing anything in particular that's special. But you'd be shocked how inspiring what you do could be to somebody else. And I think that, this thing is like chucking a pebble into a pond. It sends the ripples out a long way.
No, I agree. And, we want to hear your personal shine out moments. We want to hear your so loud moments where you have just done something incredible, somebody else in your circle. And, it's really about celebrating. We're celebrating you. You celebrate us. We celebrate together, and we grow together. So, and this is the reason why. This is why we're creating this.
Yeah. One thing when this conversation goes on, I go some way to saying that actually I don't want to replace one hegemony by another, because I'm minded to think that I see myself very much as a citizen of the world.
Right.
Within my own family, we have connections to almost every part of this planet. For me, being racist or being misogynistic and so on would be anathema. It just wouldn't work. So I think that shining out loud is about celebrating our humanity.
Yes.
And the H word is the bottom line in all of this, because at the root, we are all human beings, just different.
Yeah, I mean, we're human first before we classify down. So before we get into biology class, let's keep it really here.
Mm-hmm.
The fact of the matter is, there's sometimes you have those people that say, well, if you are standing for the community means you cannot be with other people, or you cannot have...
What does that mean?
Yeah, you have this set of people that, if you're speaking for the community, or if you're speaking within the community, and you're, it's black first and black only, and I'm like, well...
I don't get that myself.
Isn't that just the same thing that's
isn't that what I'm against?
Exactly. So why would I then turn around and do the exact same thing? So for me, I'm a human being. I'm a black woman.
Absolutely.
I'm a woman of color. You name it. But I cannot then turn around and erase somebody else out of existence. What we're saying with the show is not about let's erase other people. What we're saying about the show is let's celebrate from here within. Let's cast that light on people who are normally not celebrated.
In fact, I would like people who are not like me to watch the show and listen to the show and contribute to it in their droves, because this is as much about inspiring people of color, call it what you will, BAMEs, whatever, as informing other people about the things that they need to hear but are completely censored out of their media because somebody's terrified.
Yeah.
What are they terrified of?
Well, the truth will come out. The fact...
But the funny thing is that I always find that I'm speculating, because when I'm predicting, if I, for example, try to get a handle on what you're thinking, it would have to be speculation.
Of course.
Until I hear it from your own mouth, I really don't know what you're thinking.
Well, but that's the thing. You see, here's the thing. They're afraid that if they gave us room, then the powers that be, or, whoever, lose their grip. And I think the moment...
You're talking white privilege?
Yes.
Okay.
The moment you actually start to affect that, and then actually have to get... And here's the thing. The people... us to take self-responsibility about how we are seen in the media. There's going to be a turnaround. But the fact of the matter is, you will continue to drip feed people nonsense. That's why people are medicated by shows like Emmerdale and EastEnders. And, they don't...
Strong words.
What? It's medication. I'm sorry. It medicates people 4 days a week. People come home and they're glued to this.
I have to say I don't watch soaps.
I don't watch this.
I don't watch reality TV. What reality? It's fantasy TV.
Well, if that's reality, I want no part of that reality. But we're segueing away from this. But seriously, it's a case of let's start taking self-responsibility.
Yeah.
Instead of saying the media should portray us better, then let's create our own media.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's create a media that is responsible, that is based on skill, that is based on talent, that actually is created to actually showcase at the best and the brightest.
Okay, you see, one of the things I read the newspaper was it this morning as a young 15-year-old boy was stabbed outside his school, an academy in northwest London.
Yes.
He was 15 years old. My kids are older than that. But anyone who has children will tell you what it takes to raise a child to that age when they're just coming into their youthfulness and discovering their talents and so on, snuffed out in 3 stabs to his chest. Now, a culture that is able to create, nurture, and enable something like that has got to be complete anti-value. A total waste of time. I would say that the people who do that sort of thing are people who actually have no percentage in society.
Exactly.
None. Zero.
And they, I agree.
It's a tragedy. It's a complete tragedy. Complete tragedy. I mean, everybody loses. The parents lose, the kids lose, the society loses.
The community lost yesterday. The community lost. I mean, the fact of the matter is, it was heartbreaking. I'm not a parent, but I have 3 amazing nephews that every day I think when you read those things... It's
wrong on every level.
No. We cannot continue to allow this to happen. We cannot continue to allow this infringement to continue. We need, like you say, people to feel part of the society they live in so they participate and not destroy.
See, there should have been a queue of people waiting to ring up to say, okay, this is the guy who did it, because this happened in broad daylight. He was chased, you know, by his assailant who actually got him. I understand they've actually arrested somebody, but if you have a situation where anybody is thinking for a moment that they need to shelter a person who does something like this, that means we got something awfully wrong, and that means that people need to learn how to shine out loud.
Exactly, and I agree with you. I think really it's about taking that ownership and involving, taking action, like you said. It's about really taking part in the society that we're living and changing that narrative. So join us for the rest of the shows. We're going to have our amazing guests. This is going to be a continuing conversation, and we're not trying to beat anyone over the head to adopt anything here.
Tweet us. I mean, tell us what you think.
Exactly. Let us know.
Please get back to us. And personally, I'm always open to hear your ideas. I'd love to know what you think. If you have if you have good solutions and so on, I'm all ears. Because here's the thing: this is such a multifaceted problem that anyone who thinks that they're going to sit behind this thing and work it out on their own is crazy. This is going to need the collective wisdom of a variety and a diversity of people.
It says it takes a village. So on that note, we're going to actually wrap this piece up, and we're going to say, well, next show is same time next week.
Absolutely.
Wednesday. 8 p.m. And we have Eamon Barati. He's going to be calling in via Skype. And if you want to take part in the show, you can join us on our website via Spreaker, and you can even chat with us live. You can tweet us at Shine Out Show. You can send us an Instagram and get involved. Tell us what you want to hear. Tell us what you want to talk about. If you know someone that should be sitting on the show as a guest, let us know. Let us know. We're looking forward to doing the show and doing it right.
Absolutely. God, that shot past.
I know.
Really fast.
You know, and then while we're at it, at some point, we're going to talk about the bow ties.
Hey. Oh, I love my bow ties.
You're going to tell me why, aren't you?
Later.
Okay.
Later. Maybe on another show. Okay.
He promised.
Terrific.
All right. So thank you so much for joining us.
Have a good night. Thanks for joining us.
You've been listening to the Shine Out Loud show. If you want to connect with us or let us know what you thought of today's show, be sure to follow us on Twitter at Shine Out Show. You've been listening to the Shine